Hello and welcome to That's Not Spit, It's Condensation. I'm Ryan Beach, and today I'm very excited to have Kevin McKee on the podcast. You may be familiar with Kevin. His works are often performed by trumpet players and brass quintets, and I'm sure there are other, that's how I know you mostly is through your brass writing because of your trumpet background. I'm sure has a lot of influence on that. And so I'm excited to get to talk to Kevin just about his journey from trumpeter to composer and what that's been like and what it's like to be someone who expresses yourself in multiple different ways and what are the differences. And also, like, sort of selfishly, I wanted to get Kevin on here because I'm playing Centennial Horizon soon. And I wanted to just pick his brain on like interpretive elements so I could make sure I was going to put forth the most compelling performance. So Kevin's also got a new book that we're going to talk about as well to help kind of work through fundamentals in a more engaging and interesting way. So there's a lot to talk about. And so I'm going to stop talking now and just first welcome you and say thank you for giving me a little bit of your time, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. I'm a big fan of you and your podcast. You and I met when you were at NOI. I don't know how long ago that was.
2010, I'm pretty sure.
2010. Right. And you were definitely somebody that caught my eye. I think you played in a student group at that time with Eric Robbins, I think was the other trumpet player in a quintet there. And you guys played Escape, and definitely one of the best performances of that piece I've ever heard. It was just like, wow, like these guys can play. And
it's a great, I love that piece. I'm not a huge fan generally of the brass quintet repertoire, but there are a couple of pieces that I find are, because I find brass quintet fun to play in, but not all the pieces are like exciting to listen to or interesting to listen to. But I found Escape to be one of those, as with a lot of your music, very listenable. Let's get started just kind of with your background. I know that you got your degrees in trumpet, but now you are doing composing. And so I would just love for you to kind of walk us through how you got started in music. When did composing start to come into the picture? All those types of things.
Yeah, I grew up, in a musical household. My dad was a high school music teacher in Northern California. So I started playing trumpet in 5th grade. And kind of really started to get into it in about 8th grade and through high school. My first kind of dabbling in composing was my senior year. We all had to do a senior project at school. And so I decided to try to write a piece for band, and didn't have any training at that point. I was just, I love movie music. That's something that I've just always listened to. And so I'm like, I'm going to just try this out. And so wrote a piece. It ended up being way too difficult for the high school band. So the read through was kind of meh. Mm-hmm. But, I wrote it on a program that was in the 90s that was just, very bad MIDI sounds and stuff. And so, I think I was relying on that more than reality. And so it was a lesson learned there. But, it was a cool project. I started it, I finished it, and it was a good experience, but didn't really think much, about composing after that. Then I ended up going to college in Sacramento State University for trumpet. And it's not a huge music school, but it was a school where it's like, maybe I know you went to like Oklahoma City College, might be a similar situation where it's not like a renowned conservatory, but I got a lot of opportunities to play in pretty much everything there.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I did well in like my theory classes there and stuff, but still wasn't really thinking composing much. The one little bit of composing I did in undergrad was like a cadenza for the Aratunia Concerto.
Okay.
And I ended up playing that for Ray Mace at a master class at Aspen and got some positive feedback from him from that. And so it was, cool. I feel like little bits of wind in your sail can kind of, in retrospect, just be, you can look back and be like, oh yeah, these little encouragements along the way can kind of add up.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got to study with Kevin Cobb and Lewis Ranger that summer, and they had both encouraged me to check out Maryland as a grad school option with Chris Gecker. And that's where I ended up going for graduate school for trumpet. And in between my 2 years there, I got the opportunity to go out to this month-long chamber music camp in Kazuzu, Japan. Okay. And it was basically just kind of half Japanese folks and half folks from other places like Europe and America. And we got together and just played chamber music for the most part. And the folks on the faculty there were Proteus 7 or like Center City Brass Quintet.
Okay.
Folks, it was like Anthony DiLorenzo and Jeffrey Hardcastle were the two trumpet guys there. And that was pivotal for me. We played a lot of like Tony's music. And I mean, just that experience of like, oh, here's somebody I really enjoyed like playing his stuff. It's just fun. And it sounds like movie music.
Yeah, right.
And just like seeing, oh, he's a albeit very talented person. I mean, he's just a person, you know. I think for me, a lot of the music I'd played up until that point for like trumpet rep, you know, is pretty modern. You know, it's, you know, stuff that I enjoyed playing, but wasn't necessarily things I don't think I totally understood harmonically.
Okay.
You know, just a lot of like the Kennan Sonata and Halsey Stevens, a lot of these things that are
right,
you know, fairly advanced in that way. And I definitely enjoyed the challenge of playing them, but I wasn't going home and like listening to it for fun.
Sure.
But it's and so that was a really neat experience. So I came home and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try. I've one more year at grad school. I play in the the graduate brass quintet. So I have a group as kind of like a little lab, and I'm just going to write a piece for us to play for my recital. And so that was Escape, and it was neat to be able to workshop it throughout the year and play it. And so that's the one that kind of started me on that was kind of a side path, but then it has just rolled along into more and more of a thing that I do. And
do you find that piece? I love that piece. It's super fun to play. I didn't know anything about you before I came to NOI, and I'm pretty sure Mikhailo Babiak, who had been there the year before, was the one who suggested we were assigned some piece, and we were like, we don't want to play that. Mikhailo's like, let's play Escape instead. So I'm pretty sure that's how we came to play it. Okay. And I just find it to be, like I said, very enjoyable to listen or to play, because it's like a really nice balance of like fun technical stuff that's like challenging, but not hard for the sake of hard. But then also you just have these lush, beautiful lyrical lines that kind of are woven throughout. And I'm kind of curious, do you like look back now all this time later and like, do you still connect with that piece as like, yeah, I could totally see how that was sort of the genesis of what I was doing? Or do you sort of look at that and be like, oh, I've grown so much since then? Does that question kind of make sense?
Both. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I feel like that's a very me piece. Like, I think I've, you know, I feel like that was 20 years ago at this point. So it's, I mean, with age, your taste change a little bit. I don't think I would write that exact piece at this point, but I definitely have a good, just very like a fondness for that piece. It's kind of a bite-sized little piece of music that I'm glad you said that. Like, I mean, I definitely spent a lot of time just trying to make it as easy as possible. I don't consider myself like a real technician on the trumpet, and so I'm trying to find keys and ways to sound, you know, things that maybe sound a little harder than they actually are. Like Centennial, same thing. Like that last movement in E minor, I mean, is fairly comfortable to play from a finger standpoint.
Yeah,
but
that's really cool. I was curious. One of the sort of things that I read, it was like an ITG article that you posted to your website. So I kind of just read through that, and you were talking about how you as a trumpet player is certainly an influence, right? Like, so I'm always curious about that. Do you like hear in terms of the trumpet and what the trumpet is capable of? Is that like a filter that you still find yourself like? I'm sure when you were first starting, it was that way. Do you still feel you look through that filter as like what's doable, what would work, what would sound good? Or have you sort of moved on and you just have a better understanding sort of right at the outset where you don't have to filter it through that anymore?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's a major tool. A lot of what I write includes trumpet, and I will for sure play through things a lot of times, and just what feels good will at times influence. I'm going to make this decision because even if I wasn't originally thinking that, it's like that just, if I'm like in a performance, there's pressure on or something, that's going to feel more comfortable to play.
Yeah.
And there's always maybe a little trade-off. And so it's just, it doesn't always go that way, but I'd say often. But
yeah, it's interesting. I'm working up for the same recital. I'm working up Cascades by Vizzuti,
nice.
Which is, I would say it's like on the opposite end of the spectrum kind of from your music, where like, it feels like the challenge of it is kind of part of the purpose, like, but it's right. Written so well for the trumpet because you know what I mean? Like so many of the licks that sound insane lay incredibly well. Right. So there's a sort of an approachable aspect as a player learning it. But I feel like as a listener, you're just supposed to be like, holy crap, like this is like crazy. You know what I mean? I feel like it's supposed to sound crazy. And I think it's reflective of his technique. So it makes sense to me. You're saying you don't see yourself as like a huge technician on the trumpet or things like that. So how do you see yourself as a trumpet player that sort of informs your, at least trumpet writing, if not your writing in general?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a solid trumpet player. And so I feel like I'm generally just trying to write at a, I don't know, kind of intermediate plus advanced minus kind of level. Like I have zero desire to write a piece that is just going to be like something that I could never even touch. Like, I value just an idiomatic piece of music that mm-hmm. just like, it can be an enjoyable experience. So I feel like if the player can enjoy it, I feel like the audience maybe has a good chance of enjoying it too. I feel like that you can kind of feel if somebody's into what they're playing. And it's fun to play fun music, I think. And that's just kind of following my bliss is definitely just been a through line of everything I've written.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. And I guess one of the sort of, to be more specific in the question, is I get the sense when I'm listening to you that you're almost like framing it a little bit through just like a technical difficulty lens. Like you don't want to write something that's so difficult that it's not approachable by you. But one thing I was saying earlier that I perceive really is a huge part of your writing are these lush, beautiful, lyrical singing lines. Right. And I'm kind of curious, is that just so that you can have fun playing a lyrical line, or is there part of you that you really feel like you identify with like that kind of beauty? I'm just curious, like where that part, because I think it's such a defining characteristic of your writing.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I love, and that's something I've kind of grown to love more and more, is just a nice melody, like something that you can come away maybe humming or, that you can settle into and just play into. I think that's true. But
yeah. Well, and I guess part of the thing that interests me about this is like, obviously you are a modern composer because you're composing now. And it's just, I don't want to say it stands at odds with a lot of modern music, but I feel like if I said contemporary music to somebody, they would have a certain image in their head that may not be what your music ends up being. And so does that factor in, or is it just like, I guess what I'm asking is it seems to me you're sort of just saying, I write what I want to hear, or I write like what I could play, or I just write something that I want to be fun. Do you find you want to write something that's like not the antithesis of like what else exists? Does that even come into your space at all? Like what else is out there, and can I create something that's different? Or is it just truly kind of a personal expression and you're not really concerned with what else is out there?
I mean, I think more the latter. Like, I've played, I've played in new music groups a lot. I played in a group called the Great Noise Ensemble, which is a chamber group, music group here in DC for several years when I moved out here. And I've played, some of the trumpet rep that you're probably referring to. And I love the challenge of that stuff. But again, like, it didn't like resonate with me, I wasn't listening to it for fun. And so, I mean, a lot of like what I'm writing is just like, okay, what is something that I would just enjoy playing, like put myself on stage. It's like, okay, what would be a fun, like, I really try to just personalize it, even if it's a piece for like a different person, they've commissioned it for like this reason or something. It's like, I really try to just find a personal way into it so it can kind of, just be my voice as true as possible. And
Yeah. So to me, it brings up an interesting question I would love your perspective on, because I think a lot of people in music, in life, but let's just say in music, they can struggle with comparison, right? It's like, I'm on my own journey doing my own thing, but this other person is doing, quote, better than me, or they're better. Or like you could say, somebody who's a composer is being, let's say, more, there's always going to be someone who has more commissions or who bigger ensembles are playing it. And so I think the pull to want to try to leave your lane, so to speak, and try to do some of those other things may be tempting in the sense of I could have some of those things that I want, but you just seem so comfortable in what you're doing and in your lane. And I would love for you to speak to maybe some of the freedom that you have to be able to so sort of honestly and accurately and personally share what you're doing, which I think helps it have such an impact. But I wonder if you have ever struggled with that kind of, should I be doing something different? Should I be doing that versus, or have you always felt like comfortable, which is doing your own thing?
I think mostly, there's definitely, it's impossible not to just look at other people in this day and age and just feel like, wow. But at the same time, it's, I think just always just realizing that like somebody else's success does not have to mean anything to you. I feel like I think there's room for everyone. I think Jacob Collier talks about this, which I love when he speaks to it. It's just there's room for everybody to do their own thing, and like you're going to be doing the best work if you just can kind of focus inward and just find like what delights you. That being said, it's like I am like, I don't want to just do the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh, I got good at kind of doing this one thing, let me just repeat. I do try to find ways, and I love getting opportunities to be like, I'm going to branch out a little bit here. It's like I did a piece for choir recently, like a friend of mine commissioned me to arrange something for a choir and brass quintet in Oregon. It's like, okay, that's not something I've done. And so I enjoy just kind of pushing outward in those ways and just seeing what's what. At this point, I don't have a desire to like write a symphony or something like that. It's just, I enjoy being able to play the things that I compose, and realistically, and so like chamber music, I feel like that's a world that you can really do that in. Whereas like writing something for symphony orchestra, it's like, or like just a large piece like that is, maybe it would get played, but
okay. Yeah. So I want to turn this in a slight direction, but I gotta clarify something. My assumption is you make the majority of your income or all of your income from composing. Am I right with that?
I teach, I perform some and compose.
Okay. So kind of a multiple different sort of avenues, because I guess when I was listening to you, there's this, you were saying like, it's impossible not to look around and see other people and say, look at what they're doing and wow, but you know, you're going to do your best work. But it's like, well, what if you're this is like the artist's dilemma, right? You do your own personal thing and you may feel really great about it, but if it's not quote, you know, it doesn't have market appeal, so to speak, it will be hard to build it into something that you could sustain yourself with if that was your desire.
Right.
So I guess what I would be interested in for you is maybe to dive into a little bit about how the process of composing more often, how that sort of evolved a little bit so that someone could get a sense of like, maybe this wasn't like an intentional decision. This is the path I'm going, but you just kind of like took the opportunities where they came and then this thing happened. I'm curious just what your perspective is on how something like that grows from I did this piece that people really received well to like people are now commissioning me to do lots of different things and I was able to stay true to myself kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like, honestly, it's still hard for me even like label myself a composer in some ways. Like I feel like it's just been such a slow moving, like I did Escape one year and then I was like, oh, that was a good experience. Gecker put me in touch with Rob Roy McGregor, who is the head of Ball Quitter Music, and I ended up getting that piece published. So again, that was a little more like wind in the sail. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep going down this path a bit, and like, well, I play in another quintet now. I'm out of school. I'll write another quintet. So I wrote this one, Vuelta del Fuego. And again, I was able to workshop that with the group, and that one also got published. So it's just, I feel like it's just been a very incremental. It's like, okay, let me take another step. Let me take another step. I feel like with each thing, there's been just enough encouragement to be like, okay, this is like, I'm just doing something I like doing. I'm trying not to like expect much from it, but I'm just like, I'm getting some encouragement. And so, you know, and I feel like after you do that, take enough steps, then it's, oh, you've composed a nice chunk of pieces now. And it's like, wow, okay.
Do you feel that you would have, let's say you wouldn't have gotten that wind in the sails, like Ray Mace didn't say something to you and maybe you didn't get published. Let's just say those two are the ones that you talked about.
Right.
Do you think you would be a composer right now?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I know, like some people I know will talk about that, like they just cannot help but like do the thing that they're doing, and it's going to happen no matter what. And I honestly, I don't know if that, I love doing it. Like when I'm doing it, I love having done it. I think even more than doing it though. Like I feel like it's a hard process to write a piece, and I feel like it's like I have a hard time like lining up a bunch of commissions in a row. Say, well, I'm going to do this, just because I feel like when I get one, it's just like it's a weight for me, because you know it's just hard to turn off that part of your brain when I'm like working on a piece. It's like it's just think about it all the time.
Sure.
And so I don't always love that. And so like for it's definitely, I find it hard to compose something just for the sake of composing if I don't have a specific project in mind. It's like, oh, I have a commission due this date. Okay, then I could focus in and do that. Or it's like, I'm going to, you know, I have to play this piece in this church service on this date. So, okay, I like can focus in and get it done. So I don't know. I mean, I love like creativity. I love the creative process. I love like listening to interviews with people about creativity. It's like a fascinating thing to me. But yeah, I don't know that I would be like
interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how I think things just evolve that way, I suppose, if you want to say. It's like, and you know, I was going to ask a question, which I still can, related to, you know, would you have any advice for somebody who's young and is interested in composing? And I mean, I can ask you that question, but I guess the reason I feel like it's interesting is because there's it sounds like a certain, almost like marriage between you, like doing your best and giving your all to opportunities, but also the opportunities, like, I don't feel like I'm getting the sense from you. You were going out there and knocking on doors and saying like, hey, can I do this? Can I do this? You just saw an opportunity that was right kind of in front of you. You thought, let me take advantage of this, but almost like what's that word? Maybe it's synergy, right? The thing is bigger than it's like right here, let me do this. And that helped you grow this. So I'm kind of curious,
Right.
like everything you're saying, if someone's out there listening and they're like interested in composing and they want to kind of maybe pursue it a little more seriously, do you have any advice for how you would tell them to sort of get started, or things to focus on, or values that will help them move forward? Anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think for sure, just trying to write something that they enjoy. I think that's like first and foremost. Like if you can't enjoy it, like it's a hard ask that somebody else would. But I think if you can write something that you truly enjoy, there's a high chance that somebody else out there will like connect with it as well. And then, try to finish it. Like, I think that's where a lot of people with writing stuff, like get hung up. It's like have an idea, but then it's like, then the work starts. I feel like it's the hard part is like fleshing out an idea into like, and actually finishing and editing something to put some polish on it. So it's actually like a real piece of music and not just some thoughts. So I think putting energy into that, and then getting a good recording, I think is pretty much, I mean, with all the stuff that's out there these days, I think that's essential. Just like, here's a recording of this piece. And yeah, when I wrote Escape, I mean, I definitely hit the pavement. Like I recorded our group playing it, and then I emailed a bunch of college professors just introducing myself and like, hey, here's a recording of this piece, if you want to check it out. And that, I sent out a bunch of emails. Some people replied and checked it out. And, that's enough to kind of just, okay, there's like some folks out there. And I think, if something, is pretty good, then like people will share it with other people. And then I feel like that's when you can start to get something that spreads around a bit.
So it doesn't sound like it was totally just things falling in your lap, but you did take certain efforts to try to get your music shared and out there. Yeah. And there's a certain amount of people. When you say some people responded, that also means some people didn't respond and never wrote back.
Most people did not respond, which is like, I mean, that's just part of it. You just kind of throw things out, throw a bunch of seeds out. A couple of them will sprout,
But it sounds like that was, in a sense, you didn't need like wide mass adoption, just a number of people saying, okay, this is cool, let's give it a shot, was enough to kind of get some sort of a ball rolling with people being aware that you're out there and doing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So hopefully that's useful for some, because I think it's like, I've noticed my career has evolved in a very similar way. I just started doing some stuff, and then you see kind of what sticks, and you start to build a structure around the things that people kind of respond to, but you don't always, like, you have some sort of a clear idea of what you want in a sense, because you got to be able to go in some direction, but you don't really know what anything is until you kind of get out there and you see and you fail and you get feedback and you start to refine the idea. It's like a lot of work to be able to get to a point where someone can understand this person does this and I'm interested in what they are offering, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Well, are you okay with digging into Centennial Horizon a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just tell you what my understanding of this piece is, and I'd love for you to flesh out my understanding with as much as possible. My understanding from what I read online is your grandma loved Colorado, and she lived in California. And I don't know if she was in a position where she would not be able to get to Colorado, but either way, you wanted to write a piece that was inspired by that. And that's why it's called Centennial Horizon, because Colorado is the centennial state.
Right.
And so it's in a way a musical depiction of aspects of Colorado, some of the beauty of Colorado, some of the turbulent nature of like the storms and mountains and rivers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that is approximately where my understanding ends with this piece. So I'd love for you to share, because I'm sure there's at least one person listening that has either played this piece or will play this piece. And I think a little bit more maybe personal understanding of what's going on here could be really useful in our interpretations.
Yeah, she had lived there and then moved to California, but I mean, just was kind of at the end of her life at that point. And like she was somebody that she lived kind of near Sacramento when I was in undergrad. And so those like 4.5 years that I was in school there, I was able to get pretty close to her, just through proximity. And she would often just, after I'd moved away and, started composing a little bit, would just put that float that idea. It's like, oh, you should write a piece about Colorado. And, I think she just wished she could live back there, but it just wasn't practical. And, so that first movement, the it's all about just like the quaking aspen trees. And I got to spend a summer there in Aspen in 2003. And so I definitely knew what she was talking about. I mean, it's spectacular. And so, I mean, it's very easy to just get that kind of inspiration at a place like that. And that was something, she would always just show me pictures of like aspen trees and stuff. So that's where that first movement came from. And is in particular just a tribute to her, just kind of with the delicate kind of windy, quivery sounds in the piano. And the second movement is, just needed a contrast. And so we have a big picture of that, like the Gunnison like gorge in our house where I grew up. And it's just a cool looking river and like canyon and stuff. And so that's where that one came from. Just trying to write something exciting again, that laid well on the horn, and just trying to get like a rafting trip down that river essentially. And
then can you tell me a little bit about the interlude and how this sort of fits in there?
Yeah, that was something that like, it was something that I came with while I was writing the two movements, but they were both kind of set, but I really liked it. I liked the chord progression. I was just like, I wonder if I could just kind of have this be a little in between, like a segue, it still uses that same melody, like the da 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 da, right? It's just kind of in a minor key now, da 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 da. And then that same melody comes back in the fast movement too, like in that the twinkly section. And it was, it was more like I didn't feel like I could kind of shove it into the first movement. Like I liked the form of that one, but I was like, yeah, let me see if this could kind of work, and seemed like it fit really nicely in there. And
yeah, I would agree. It's an interesting way to get from one place, because like you would imagine it would, I don't want to say it would be jarring, but it would almost be kind of jarring, you know what I mean? To go from the first to the second movement. So having this kind of darker depiction of that melody to kind of help transition you to the more turbulent, darker contrast. And it's like, I think it's it's cool to hear that it was like material that you liked, but didn't have a place for. And so you kind of just worked it in. Like that's interesting to me, I guess.
Yeah. It was one of the last parts of the puzzle was getting that and just connecting the keys. And yeah, so I mean, there's so much of that in composing. You just like, will this work? And a lot of times no, but then that one was like, oh, that's actually really, I like that. And like,
yeah, but I've got a bunch of other questions. I hope that's okay. So can you describe, I mean, from your words, I could make it up. Like I could decide for myself, and I will decide for myself, but I'm kind of curious for you. If you were to describe like one or two emotions or characters for the first movement, because it's kind of one self-contained idea, it feels. I mean, obviously there's some minor stuff in there, and there's some spots where the music becomes more intense, but in a way it's not like the Artunian trumpet concerto, which has multiple different sort of contrasting things. So just for the first movement alone, like what is the emotion you had or the characters that you were thinking of in terms of like what you were trying to portray?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has like a sentimentality to me. Like when I have played that piece, I mean, I'm just thinking of her,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so it's got like just a, you know, it's got. I definitely have just a love for her, and so there's yeah, I mean, I don't know beyond that, just like sentimental and just trying to, it's reverent. She passed away like before hearing it, unfortunately, but it was kind of like while I was working on it. And
did you have a chance to like play some snippets of what things could be and send them to her so she could? Oh, interesting.
I didn't. No. And I mean, that was just, I wish I could have done that, honestly, but
I guess technology back then maybe wasn't exactly the same as what it is now. It's like that long ago. I don't even know. I can't even remember what life was like back then. Yeah,
I know. So it's just reverent, sentimental.
Yeah. So almost like, because it's interesting. I can actually see that, and it to me it changes it. As weird as it sounds, like I was thinking this like intimacy. There, it's like to me it's very intimate music. Like as much as times where you can really play out in like maybe not even a loud way, but a very like full. Like I hear kind of like a almost like an operatic tenor singing something intimate or sentimental. Right? I hear like a kind of a fuller sound. Especially with some of the lines that are kind of sweeping. But it would be an interesting experiment to like play around with like thinking something similar. Obviously, maybe somebody I am sentimental towards in a similar way, and seeing how does that change my experience of playing this piece.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think playing with a full sound for sure. And I think, you know, at the end, it's just celebratory, you know, it's just.
Oh, that's a good word for that. Yeah.
Just,
because I almost like wonder why did it speak like it's like Poco Più Mosso, where that main theme comes back at the sort of the crest of it. And I was like, celebratory totally makes sense there.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. I think just letting it out there. And
it's like, to me, the climax of the movement for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For the interlude, again, I'll ask you I'll ask you first, see what you kind of say. Like, what's the character? What's the emotion? Like, what are you trying to convey or get the listener to feel?
Yeah, it's just a little more mysterious, right? I love that. Like an alpenglow is just a cool, just phenomenon. Right.
I'm not sure. Can you describe it?
Oh, yeah. That's basically the phenomenon when the sun is setting and there's like shade on much of the mountain, except it's like the top of it is just kind of illuminated by the setting sun. And so a lot of times you'll just get this kind of orange, just mysterious, otherworldly kind of glow happening. Just on the peaks of a ridge or something. And so, you know, just after you're in this, this like aspen grove, and then it's just, you know, I just kind of picture like a pan across, you know, the setting sun, and just kind of a darkening. It's like things are settling down, and then pans again down into the river, and off you go. But
yeah, like, so I almost felt, I mean, that makes total sense, obviously, because you wrote it. I almost heard like a brooding quality. Do you think do you see that in that, or do you not feel like that's, I mean, it can be anything, obviously anybody, right. But do you see a brooding quality in there? Is that different from how you perceive it?
I could see that. I don't know if that's the word I would use specifically, but
because it gives it almost less like what you described doesn't have this like sinister, nefarious, like sort of that what that brooding might have. You know what I mean? Where like something is changing and we're moving towards this like darker, more. But you're just sort of describing like the sun is setting, essentially like. It's like literally getting darker.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So pivots into like a minor, but I mean, just from a performance, I feel like one thing I would just try to do is not make your breaths take too long. Like I think just trying to keep the line and the sound happening as constant as possible. I think that's a hard thing to do with that because it's just a long, uninterrupted line of music for the trumpet, but just trying to make those breaths just quick and then get back into the sound. And
can I ask you a specific question about something phrasing wise? I gotta open up my part here real quick. There's a phrasing question I have in the second movement or that interlude. Okay, so again, this is like how you, where I'm just like asking your opinion. It can be anything, but out here, and that is almost like a down shape, and then and then maybe this is sort of a not a reset, and then I hear da da dee 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 da da dee dee da. All is one thing. Do you hear that? Do you hear the C sharp D? Da da dee dee da. Do you hear that as the end of the thing before it, or leading into the next thing?
I feel like that leads in to the next thing.
Oh, okay. So then it would go da dee 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 da da. I'm singing the wrong dee 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 da dee dee da dee do da dee dee da da. Okay, I feel like I could have gone either way, and I just wanted to ask like what your vision was for that.
That's one of those spots where I feel like sometimes I'll hear just like da dee 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 da da, and I feel like that just kind of
okay. That's what I was doing. I don't want to ruin your vision. Okay, and then one other kind of interesting, fun thing that you have is you have things like and ominously. So maybe that's a little bit of that brooding quality. And then you wrote buckle up, and then you wrote get moving. So maybe some humor in there, you know?
Yeah.
In the engraving. It's kind of fun. And then, so you've pretty well described a story or like a picture of what Roaring Gunnison is. But like if we were to try to describe it into like an emotion or like a character, I'm kind of curious like what words you would use to describe this second movement.
Yeah, I mean, definitely exciting. You know, that word explosive. You know, just leaning forward. Like I feel like that. So sometimes I feel like that can just be a helpful thing, just physically with a piece. It's like there's kind of pieces where you lean back, and then some pieces where it's like literally just leaning forward a little bit can just affect how you play something. And I think that's just trying to keep this thing propelling forward. And
I almost think like turbulent, but because that would make sense because of like the rafting component of what you described.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would think from a performance standpoint is there's two questions I kind of have. I have my answers to them, but I'm curious. One, I feel like paying very careful attention to the dynamics is like a pretty key part of this movement. Like if you just play it all loud, it's not going to necessarily have the intended effect. Right. And then I just wonder how important to you, I'd love to know if you agree with that or if there's some wiggle room there. And then how important to you is all of these tempo gradations that are not huge differences in tempo, but I assume give a different sort of character emotion. Like I've just listened to so many different recordings and interpretations, and I'm curious from the source, like, do you feel like getting these small gradations is a part of really having this movement sing, or if you just play the whole thing super fast, does that work? I kind of curious. I mean, you wrote it intentionally, but I'm kind of curious, like, how you would answer that.
So you're talking about like,
so like the beginning
like
is 160.
Right.
And then at 275, it goes to 150 to 154, right? So that's like a relaxation. And then at U, it's 160. And then there's poco più mosso, and then tempo D breakneck. But when you hear it, it can all kind of even out into this like just fast, exciting tempo. So maybe even a better question would be, how do you envision how maybe the character or the emotion changes for these things? So even if the tempo isn't exactly dialed in, you're still, I could still get the intended effect of what the tempo changes are supposed to be.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess they wouldn't be super important. Like, I mean, the poco più mosso at like 275 is the biggest one there. But I feel like more than that, it's just the music shifts. Like, I mean, it's just a different vibe happening at that point. Taking it down a little bit just gives you some place to go later, which is always nice. But again, it's not a huge downshift there. It's just, a minor shift. But trying to just play with, more sustained, just a more lyrical way of playing through that whole section, just to contrast the faster, more aggressive stuff later is, I think, the main thing there.
And then I have one very, very specific question. The lick that goes bum 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 da 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 da. I almost hear like a Snake Charmer vibe in here. Is that appropriate? Is that how are you sort of envisioning it? It just feels like it has this very weaving quality, which maybe is the raft, but I almost hear this like Snake Charmer. Do you feel like that's appropriate?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be. I was curious how you saw it.
It's a bit of a slithery little line there. Yeah. I mean, I like that kind of just those little chromatic resolutions, and I think it is a fun thing to do, which it definitely has a snaky.
Yeah.
No, I'm for it.
Well, I don't know if there's any other thoughts you have about the piece that would help me or somebody else really get at the core of like presenting it. Again, like part of music is people get to put their own interpretation into it. So, but I just find this is such a cool opportunity to like pick the brain, deeply pick your brain, the composer of this piece, in terms of color and in terms of picture. So is there anything else that maybe you feel like could really help people understand what you were trying to get at for really accurate, exciting interpretations?
Yeah, I'm trying to look through the part right now, actually. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just trying to have a good time with it. I feel like if you can do that, like that's the main thing. Like that tonguey stuff at the poco più mosso at 345.
This is like a stressful event, I think, for some people.
Yeah. Trying to just keep moving through that. I feel like that can be like a part where sometimes it gets a little boggy, but just trying to move through that can be helpful. Are you going to take the high B at
yes
301?
I don't know. Every recording I've listened to, everybody plays it down. I looked in the score. There's actually not a high B option.
That's how I mean, I wrote it down initially because that wasn't something that I would do. But then Phil Snedeker just played it that way once, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so then I just like threw that in there.
I'm totally
as an option.
Well, cool. I appreciate this, and I know people who are, like I said, who have played this, hopefully getting that insight might inspire them to play it again to see what's different after learning, and people who may play this moving forward, just for they can feel like they can connect to what the piece is just a little bit more and feel like they understand it. I feel like understanding is a huge part of being fulfilled and accurate and consistent in performance. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I also let's talk about your next book. Should we do that? Or you're
sure.
not your next, but this composition. So Kevin,
this came out a
book here
ago.
A couple years ago. Is that right?
A couple years ago. But.
Let's see. When's the 2022? So I am behind the times. So this must have been a COVID project.
Yeah.
Well, it's Kevin McKee's Musical Jungle Gym for Trumpet. He sent this over, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I understand it, and then I'd love some clarity, because it can be a little overwhelming looking at it just like right out of the gate. Right. But my understanding is the goal of this is to make fundamentals. It says a smorgasbord of stylings and gamified fundamentals. So there's multiple ways to approach it. One of the unique ways, I think, is like a deck of cards kind of approach and I'm a huge fan of offloading the decision-making to something else. Right. So having this deck of cards option where you draw a card and that that's connected to a whatever particular exercise, and that will just determine what your fundamentals are. And then in the back, there's different sort of what looks like styles of things that you can work through and jazz. So it's kind of like almost a well-rounded approach to not just developing fundamentals, but exploring different styles to maybe develop versatility. And it's obviously not a complete... It's not going to get you from 0 to 100, so to speak, but it can certainly be. It sounds like it's geared towards people who are starting to explore these things. I'd love for you to correct me on anything I get wrong and kind of explain where this came from and who it's for and how you would recommend using it.
Yeah, this is, I've had iterations of this through the years, and this is kind of like the final, or I think it's the final one. That, I tried, this was a book that I would have, I tried to write a book that I would have just loved in high school. Mm-hmm. Something that, my favorite thing about the trumpet is its versatility. And so having something that just dabbles in as many styles of playing, that the trumpet does, obviously it's not a complete thing. Like, I didn't want to write an encyclopedia, but something that you could, I think if you play through everything like a high school student, you'd have touched a lot of the stuff that we do on the trumpet, or that you hear out in the world. And a big part of it is like with these QR codes that are with each style study, that it'll take you to like a video recording of somebody playing in that style of music, not this etude, but that you just listen and then try to like, okay, take that sound. If it's like a Louis Armstrong thing, okay, let me try to like hear his sound and play this etude with that sensibility. And that is huge. And just having it there, like I have a PDF version as well, where all this stuff is just links. So it's even easier if you have an iPad. Where it's, if you're teaching, which I've taught a lot over the years, and you don't want to be like, okay, there's a recording of something like this, and you just like, you just be like, boom, here it is, check it out. All right, let's try to just apply that to what we're doing here. And so just kind of bringing an awareness. So they can just listen to like one, if you listen to everything in here, you'd have like a pretty good little sampling of some different players, a lot of different styles of playing, and I think you'd be fairly well-rounded. And so I enjoy using it with my students, like kind of junior high through high school. A lot of the fundamental stuff you can just, do like, okay, let's buzz this, use a deck of cards to determine those things. And like with kind of scale modifications and whatnot. There's a little bit for jazz, a little bit of transposition, some bugle calls in there. But it was definitely a passion project that it's kind of a long time coming, and something I'm proud of, and I think is a good resource. If there's any folks out there that teach high school level students, that could be something fun to check out.
Can you share a little bit about either how like you say, I wish I would have had this in high school. How might it have changed your practice? Or you could also sort of say, from the students you work with, like, what do they say about it? How is it different? How does it change the way they do things? Like, what does it allow? I'm just kind of curious from like the effect of working through this book.
Yeah, I think in high school I played, I did like the Harold Mitchell book with my teacher. High school, Arbenz, Getchell, it kind of had a lot of those things. And so it was a lot of the stuff that I was kind of given was fundamental, trying to get just good sound fundamentals on the horn and things. But this just trying to like have something where you could kind of like hear an example and then just apply it. Like I think my students enjoy just the variety of, something like the Getchell book. They're all different and they're all good, but they're all kind of somewhat similar. Mm-hmm. Like just the style of writing, you know what I mean? But if you're playing something that's like, oh, play this like Miles Davis, or play this like salsa, or play this like a spaghetti Western, I feel like those are very different.
Yeah.
And could just be a powerful educational tool. And I found it just kind of keep you, they're getting a little tired of this. We can switch gears drastically to something, you know what I mean? And there's a checklist component to it too, that like on the back cover, that just everything in the book, you can kind of check your way through it. And with the PDF, I have them all linked. So if you check the box like on the page itself, it'll automatically check it on the checklist page as well. Is a way to just like, oh, I'm kind of working through something, that there is an end to. That's part of the reason it's like a 50-page book. I just wanted something that is achievable to, I've done everything in this book, and it might take a couple years or something for that age. But yeah, I've had a good response from my students. Like it's just is a fun place to, spend some time.
Yeah.
So
I'm assuming you taught a fair amount without this book or without this kind of approach. So I'm curious, it's sort of related to the last question, but what do you notice are the differences in either a student's attitude or their actual playing? Like, how does development differ from what you've seen with like the more traditional Arbens, Getchells, and then having this more varied approach? I'm curious, like, what you notice differences are.
Yeah, I don't not use those. I mean, those are.
Well, you know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. I think mostly just in engagement. Like I feel like just seeing something that is, especially if you pull up, it's like, oh, let's play this salsa music. Hey, let's listen to this recording of these guys, and it's just like, okay, that is. I feel like that's a very, like, just hearing it immediately and like, oh, that's a style I've heard before. Like I can relate to that. Or, like for the epic lyrical one, it's like I use music from the end of like Avengers Endgame. It's like, oh, maybe they've seen that movie. It's like something in that style. I feel like there's like,
that's cool.
Again, they're just original etudes written in a certain style. Again, like I'm not, but can just put you in like a mindset. And I think it's, I think for the most part they've enjoyed it, and it's been fun for me too.
Yeah. No, I love this. I mean, I have one last question about this, and it's like kind of from a branding point of view, but we've described who this is for.
Yeah.
Maybe like teachers of high school, middle school students, or maybe students who are in that, or players who are in that sort of maybe beginner to intermediate developmental range. Would you say that this book can still benefit more advanced or even professional players, or do you feel like this is something that like really is only for those younger players?
Oh no. Like, I mean, I think it could definitely be something that anybody could have fun playing with. I mean, I think I would rank these as mostly like intermediate. I intentionally didn't go too high with the range. I don't know that it really goes like higher than like a high B flat or something. And I think some of the rhythmic stuff is going to be a little more challenging than the range things, because I just didn't want that to be a barrier. But yeah, I think absolutely. I enjoy playing stuff out of it sometimes. And I think certainly the, just some of the modification exercises, especially with the scales, I think you could kind of find yourself going down some routes in your playing with like articulation and whatnot, and rhythms with your scales that you might not be choosing to do on your own or thinking to do. So I mean, you can kind of just layer the modifications like using a deck there. But
well, and that's one of my favorite. I mean, in the work that I do in my coaching, like one of the things I think that makes it especially effective is that I'm writing kind of programs, right? That tells people what to do and when to do it and how fast and how, like, it takes a lot of the decision making away from them. Right. So that I think that's one of the difficult parts about a practice session is you sit down and you're like, what should I do?
Right.
And I feel like this is such an interesting way to like, it's like structure without structure in a way. Like you're not sitting down and like writing out all the different things, but also you're letting this book sort of just like, I'm just going to sort of turn the card over and see what happens. And it's going to be different. You shuffle the deck and it's going to be different every time. And so, yeah, it's a way of getting some structure without getting like super intense about structure, if that makes sense. Right. That's if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's like some just sections. There's like, okay, here's some flow studies. Here's some buzzing examples. Here's some scale stuff. So, I mean, you're kind of getting just those fundamental components that you want to hit, but then just within that, some variety, some randomness. That's fun, I think. And yeah.
Well, this is great, man. I love, obviously, like I've been very effusive about how much I enjoy your writing, and I look forward to digging into the book, The Jungle Gym. I'm curious if you had. Well, I've got a lightning round. I think I told you about this, but I haven't told you what the questions are. But before we do that, I'm just curious if there's anything else that you would be interested in sharing that we haven't touched on that you find to be really helpful to you, in your career or in your teaching, or just something that really has like helped guide you. Just kind of any ideas that you feel like could be helpful for other people that have been especially helpful for you that we haven't touched on.
Yeah. I feel like just from a trumpet thing. So, I mean, we didn't touch on this at all. But in 2012, I had a couple lip surgeries because of like an overuse injury in 2009, just out like a muscle tear. So I had a couple like surgeries in 2012, and then I feel like ever since, I know it's been years at this point, but kind of coming back from that, something that I feel like has been helpful to me. I don't know if you ever do much of this, is like blocked buzzing.
I've never really experimented. No, please.
Okay.
Share.
Oh, just as a way to help. And I've kind of found this helpful with students too recently, just in helping that whole like kind of corners forward idea that I feel like was something that I'd heard like many people talk about, but never really was able to understand that well myself. But I feel like this kind of helps with that a little bit, and it's from a book called Broken Embouchure by Lucinda Lewis. It's where I heard about it first, which is a good resource for anybody that's having like some chop issues but just blocking like the end of your mouthpiece and blowing into it. And it's really interesting because like, even if you're feeling like tenderness or whatever in some place, this will just kind of almost effortlessly help you find a stableness.
Yeah, and that cushion is like that cushion that I look for is like very, very easy to feel.
Right. You're obviously like introducing a lot more resistance into like than you would with the trumpet, but I feel like just as a guide to to finding a stability.
That's really cool because like,
that's just something that's kind of been.
I never heard that, and one of the things I think it's super important, and I've have ways to help people kind of figure out this. Like I do like the pencil exercise thing, to help connect with corners, but
yeah,
I'm going to give that a shot for sure. It just feels like it's a much more sort of the specificity is higher, right? Because the mouthpiece is sitting on our face and we're feeling that versus like the pencil and then trying to figure out how do I, transfer that. So I appreciate that tip for sure. I'll be trying it out Yeah,
I don't know. It's just something
that's good.
I've been tinkering with. So
I'm glad I asked. I'm always looking to like learn what people find are effective and try those things out and see if I can explain them and see if it's better than the way I'm describing things. You know what I mean? I'm all open to it. So I appreciate it. Are you ready for this lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I've got a total of 15 chat GPT generated questions that I said, can you make a lightning round about, and they're personal questions. So maybe sort of music related, but not specific to that. Do you want all 15 or do you want like 10? What do you think?
Let's do it, man.
All of it? All right. Number 1, first piece of music that made you think, I want to do this. You could answer it as a trumpet player or as a composer or however you want. Or first experience that kind of made you, that clicked of like, I want to pursue this.
I'd probably say Star Wars music.
Okay.
That one. Yeah.
Number 2, what part of composing do you enjoy the most? And what part do you procrastinate on the hardest?
I love editing. Like once a piece is kind of mostly finished and just kind of tweaking details. Starting is for sure the worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a weird question. I assume it's like basically piano or trumpet. Like which do you use or think about most often when you're composing to try to like help you figure out melodies or whatever?
I'd say it's pretty even with those. And then, I feel like there's 3 parts to that pie. Another one is just not anything, just getting away from an instrument altogether.
Okay.
Where it's like, I definitely have my limitations and just getting out of your limitations, just your imagination,
Yeah. Number 4 is, do your best ideas come more often while you're working or while you're not supposed to be working? I'm going to change this question to, because you talked about creativity and listening to podcasts. I'd be curious, like how you, what is your creative process? Like, do you have a sort of like, because some people say, oh, if I go on walks, that's when I get my best ideas or anything like that. Like, I'm curious, do you have a way that you coax out ideas, or is it just like, I got to strike where the iron is hot kind of thing?
I feel like I'll try lots of different things. Definitely movement is helpful, but just sitting down, my wife works at the University of Maryland, so sometimes I'll go into there where it's just changing your location sometimes can be helpful to me, and where it's not just all the distractions around the house. But sometimes it's just, you can't wait for inspiration. It's just, I got to do it. And so that can be helpful. So it's funny how like the mind can just play tricks sometimes, and you think you need to wait for inspiration, but in reality, you just need to get going. And so I feel like it's a variety, and I'll usually just try to change up tactics just so you don't get too precious with like, I need to do this and I need to be here and I feel like it's really easy to do that, but
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you hear, and for other people it works. I've read things like some writers will be like, I have the same place at all the time, and I like sit down for 30 minutes. And if I write nothing, it's like, I'm just showing up in case something happens and this is my space. But like, I love that you're sort of alluding to like, it's okay for you to experiment and try different things, and it doesn't have to be one way that works for somebody else. That's what it sounds like, at least.
Right.
What's one style of music you love that would surprise most trumpet players or just most people?
Let's see. I don't know. I like folk music.
Okay.
You know, like Cat Stevens, John Denver, those guys.
Nice. Number 6. I'm going to adjust this question a little bit. Is there any part of your composing ritual that like has to be there? Like, do you need coffee, or do you need like absolute silence, or is there something that like has to be there for you to feel like it's now time to compose or something?
Maybe a Diet Coke.
Yeah, fair enough. This is an interesting question. It says, what's the quickest way you know a piece isn't working? I would ask that question is like, how do you know when to abandon an idea that's just not there? Like, is there a way you're like, you know what? Because you said you try things out and it doesn't work. Like, how long do you pursue an idea or trying to refine it and making it work versus like, now I know this isn't right and I got to move on to try something different?
Usually not too long. I've never like abandoned a piece I started.
But I guess in terms of like a melody or something, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think not too long. Like a lot of times for me, I'll just kind of have a file with a lot of, and it's almost like a notebook or like a diary of ideas. And I feel like if you kind of stay with something too long and you just try to like keep forcing it in, it's just going to be harder to let go. So it's just trying to be real as soon as possible and be like, and let stuff go before it starts to entrench itself and you're like start to grow attached to it or something. But
do you feel the opposite is true then too? That like when it's right, is it pretty clear really, really quickly?
I'd say more often than not. Yeah.
Cool. But well, you kind of already answered this. It could be what you said about escape, but if not, a piece of your own music you're still especially proud of, and why?
Yeah, I mean that one for sure. I'd say Iron Horse is another one that I'm very proud of. Like that was one that was that was a piece that I did kind of a little bit just right beyond my playing. It was for the Gewandhaus Brass Quintet in Leipzig. And so I knew like I wanted to throw something at those guys that they could really, really dig into. And they have a great recording of it. And
did you get to go out there for the premiere?
I didn't.
Oh
no, I know.
Number 9.
They're
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean they're very lovely and did an amazing job. So.
Yeah. That would just been a cool.
I know.
Yeah. Number 9. What's something young players worry about that you wish you could convince them not to?
I think just making mistakes. You know, and I relate to that. I mean, I just remember like always being so nervous in band. I'm like looking at my neighbors like fingerings and stuff, and just having some stressful feelings at that time. And it's just like, just relax and it's all good.
Number 10, we've sort of touched on this, so it can be similar or we can skip it. But when you're stuck musically, let's say when composing, what usually gets you unstuck?
I think taking a little time can be good. Just if you're kind of in the same thing, sometimes just, okay, I need a minute from that. I think transcribing something else or just trying to like write something else. Like I know Eric Whitaker talks about just like writing like a Bach, just transcribing like a Bach piece or something, and just kind of doing that, kind of getting into somebody else's world a little bit can just jar you out of a rut. And I've tried that a couple times, and that can be helpful as well. But.
Yeah, interesting. Because I feel like it's not dissimilar to advice, maybe like when you're practicing something It's either to take a break or
Right.
you wonder too, like, what if you're like, all right, I'm just going to put this away for a second and just play something that's like enjoyable. Maybe I'll pull out Kevin's book and play through a couple of these fun etudes just to get me out of the mode of like, I have to learn this and I have to like solve all the problems. I wonder if it's kind of a similar piece of advice for someone who might feel stuck, like playing wise.
Yeah. Oh, I think absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. Or changing your environment, just change something is always good.
Yeah. I'm going to skip this next question because it's stupid. Number 12. If you could instantly give trumpet players one skill or habit, what would it be?
I don't know. I think just to have a good embouchure setup.
Yeah, that's like everything. Yeah.
Right.
Number 13. What does fun in music mean to you now compared to when you first started composing? I hate how ChatGPT talks.
Fun in music now. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just, playing with people that I like playing with. And playing great music. Like I don't know that that's changed a lot, honestly.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's kind of I understand what the question is trying to ask. It's just sometimes it asks it in a weird way. We got two more. What's one non-musical thing that consistently makes your playing or writing better? I think this is a good question.
One non-musical thing. I think just being out in the world. Like for me, a lot of I'd say the majority of my music is like based on places, or like I wrote a trumpet ensemble piece called Durenhorn Passage. That's like a part of the Alps. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures, and it's just it can be a real place or an imaginary place, but just something that just ignites your imagination. So for me, just being out in the world is always very helpful, very inspiring. And
I mean, it's clearly a part of Centennial Horizon too,
Yeah,
So
sure.
Do you find that to be like a big part of all of your compositions? You have some sort of external picture, or is it just a couple of them happen to have that connection?
I'd say probably all of them. Like the
cool.
Iron Hordes piece, I mean, is a train thing. Like Vuelta del Fuego is like a kind of a Spanish, just imagine like horses riding. So I feel like there's definitely a narrative component to everything. I try to find something like that, so I can just it helps me just stay on a trajectory. And
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
The last question is, what is something you're excited about? What's something you're working on that's coming up, or just anything that you're like excited about coming up in the near future?
Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm playing in this show that's happening down in DC in this place called the DuPont Underground. And it's a play with two actors, and it's called The Trumpeter. It's a Ukrainian play about this trumpet player that's down in this bunker in Ukraine, like during this, this Russian war. And
trying to get his Clark studies in.
No, I mean, it's all about, just finding hope in like a dark time. And he's trying to kind of compose this symphony of war just while there's all these like explosions and stuff going on around. And so I'm playing trumpet for that. I'm kind of the trumpet voice of the trumpet, or the actor, essentially. And so playing some Ukrainian folk songs and stuff. And so it's that's something I've always enjoyed, is just being part of theater. I think some of my best like high school memories are just playing in the pit for musicals and stuff. And so like being a part of just, a musician in a part of a greater team of artists and is always super cool. So that's something I'm excited about now. I'm working on my next composing project is for a friend of mine, Chono Yoon. He's a trumpet player
I know him. Yeah.
Okay.
We went to NRO together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, there you go. He's so I think while he was at NRO, like his homestay person, Pat, is somebody that he like got really close with, and she passed away like a year or so ago, I think, from like a hiking accident. So he was wanting a piece to honor her, and I think hopes to record it this summer.
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm into right now compositionally, and
that's great, man. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's like super nice to reconnect with you and kind of get to pick your brain. I appreciate your openness and just being willing to share. I'm sure there are other people who feel the same as I do and would love to express that to you, and B, maybe are interested in checking out and maybe purchasing some of your music. So if somebody wanted to do that, to get in touch with you in that way, what would be a good way for them to do that?
Yeah, just website's kevinmckeemusic.com. So you can contact me through there, and all my music is available there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, this has been really enjoyable. I'm glad to have you on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, I just end with a quick little card trick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, fire it.
For anybody.
I love card tricks.
This is a simple one for if anybody like. I just like having a deck around, so I'm going to show 2 cards here. I'm not going to look at them. Can you see those?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to slide those cards into the deck here.
Okay.
I'm not going to look. All right, so I got them slid in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and give this a shuffle.
You could be doing so much misdirection off camera.
I could, but you gotta just trust me on this. All right. All right. So do you remember your cards?
Let me write it down just to make sure I don't forget. I do remember it. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Bruh.
Got them?
Yeah.
I'm going to give that one away. So your cards were actually the 6 of diamonds and the 9 of hearts.
Oh, you're totally right.
Nobody ever catches that though. But so if you kind of,
because I'm trying to remember 2 cards, like it's
exactly. So like I kind of set those cards up on top, and so I knew those 2 were the 2 that I was going to give you, and I just put them in the middle there, and I had these 2 set on the top and bottom.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So then
if you can have those and then just slide them out,
you just get good at that motion.
Get good at that, but that can be a real quick, pretty effective trick. So.
Nice party trick. That's cool, man.
There you go. Yeah. So work on that one. Like,
how long have you been? Have you been doing magic for a long time?
I mean, off and on. I feel like I'll go in spurts, and then I'll like forget all the ones that I had learned, and then have to relearn. And
yeah, because
that's a very simple one.
Yeah. I visited a friend of mine. He's the principal pops conductor of the ASO, and I played Nutcracker with his orchestra in December. In Brevard.
Oh, cool.
And
nice.
His son Bob was there, and he has been like practicing like magic for like 15 years. And so he can do like, do you know who Richard Turner is? That card mechanic guy? Maybe you haven't. I love magic and all that stuff. Long story short, it's a dude who can he can like shuffle the deck up and then deal like 4 jacks to this person, 4 queens. It's like all this crazy stuff. And this dude can do all of that. And I just wasn't. So anytime somebody just randomly is like, do you want to see a card trick? It's like, it's such a cool thing that like, you just don't expect people to know how to do. And then when they can do it, it's like, I love it. I love magic so much.
Yeah.
I mean, and then he taught me a couple of tricks so I can do it for my family now. And they're like, how'd you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I guess I got lucky, you know? So I'm cool. I'm happy to know that you enjoy that as well. So,
oh yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks again for doing this. I also want to thank Brandon Yoakum for his work on mastering this episode of the podcast. And you can find Brandon at epiphanyrecordingstudio.com. And most of all, I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one.